I'm sure you've heard me talk about 26shirts.com before, but just in case you haven't, let me fill you in. At 26 Shirts, they sell different limited edition sports-themed t-shirts every 2 weeks. After a shirt's prospective 2-week run is over, the design is retired and never sold again. They are operating out of Buffalo and now also offer options in Chicago. For every shirt sold, $8 is donated to a family in need. Not to a major charity or foundation, but to an actual family or individual in need. To show our support here at Chasing Cinema, when you buy a shirt, we will automatically put you into a drawing to win the next shirt free. That's right. You buy a shirt, $8 goes to help a family or individual in need, and you get a shot to win the next shirt absolutely free from Chasing Cinema. So go to www.26shirts.com and buy a unique Buffalo Sports Design t-shirt, help a great cause, and also get entered to win the next shirt absolutely free. Again, that's 26shirts.com, because you have the ability to help a complete stranger just because it's the right thing to do. www.26shirts.com. Help someone now. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to ChasingCinema.com's official podcast, where each week, me and my faithful co-host / best friend,
Louie Coruzzolo,
talk about the world of motion pictures. If it's the first time you've ever heard our podcast, thank you for tuning in. What usually happens is Louie and I are going to catch up with each other, see what we've been watching. We're going to take that into some movie news, and then that will eventually lead into a full review, an in-depth review, if you will, of the upcoming film. Well, not upcoming, because even though it's not out yet, you'll have seen it'll be out by the time you hear this. San Andreas, starring Dwayne Johnson. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes. That way, each week, our episodes are automatically downloaded to your iTunes, your iPod, your iPhone, your iPad, whatever you may listen to your podcasts on. Or, of course, if you're not an iTunes person and you might not have all those lovely Apple products, you can always just listen to them on YouTube under youtube.com/chasingcinema, where you will also find video reviews and movie news that we update daily on that YouTube channel, so you can subscribe over there as well. Either way, thank you for listening. Louie, my dear friend, how are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Why don't you tell the people where you're venturing off to today?
Oh, okay. Well, tonight is May 28th, Thursday, and if you're in Vegas and happen to like rock and roll music, there's a good chance you would be seeing Robert Plant at the Brooklyn Bowl. Now, this is my first opportunity to see Robert Plant. Obviously, we are much too young that we never got the chance to see Led Zeppelin live in concert, and they have not been touring together. So this is the closest chance a person in his 20s or her 20s will get to see a Zeppelin-like concert, hopefully, and I'd be off to seeing Robert Plant right after we wrap this podcast up.
Though he is not, Robert Plant is with another band, right? Tonight.
Well, it's his like his side band. It's called like the Sensational
Space Shifters, right?
Yeah, something weird like that.
And it is a 21
he does have
band, which is very strange.
Oh yeah, but accompanied by adult, I'm pretty sure they're allowed to go in.
Oh, okay, probably. You're right.
But he does have a solo album out with this band, so it's going to be a mixture of that with Led Zeppelin hits, so it's going to be interesting.
Do you think he will play Led? I'm sure he'll play Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I've looked at the set list. You know, there's I don't know
that
how
just
many
ruins everything.
No, but you got to be prepared. It's not like movies or spoilers. It's good to know what you're getting. He, I don't know, roughly plays about 15 songs. At least, a good portion, if not majority, is, Zeppelin hits. So he does give the fans what they want. But then again, you're not going to get Stairway to Heaven. Yeah. So it's not like the casual, Zeppelin. Oh yeah, like Zeppelin. I know that. You're probably going to be disappointed. But for the true fans out there,
will they be Jethro Tull disappointed?
Meaning,
well, I mean, to the extent of going to see a Jethro Tull concert.
Well, he still sings relatively well, unlike Ian Anderson. So hopefully his vocal locals would be in check. I'm also eating at the Brooklyn Bowl tonight. Apparently they have this amazing fried chicken dinner there, so hopefully that pans out as well.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I'm sure it's going to be crazy, so it's smart that you're going early. But regardless of that, what have you been doing as far as TV or movie watching?
Well, this week, since we're doing this podcast earlier, I know last podcast I said I have movies lined up to watch, but since we did this earlier than expected, I have none of those movies watched or reviewed, so I'm going to skip on that. I did watch Thor 2 with Pops because he wanted to see it. He's a big Thor fan, and that was kind of fun watching it with him. He was definitely surprised by the twist of an ending they kind of pull.
Oh, yeah.
Spoiler alert with Loki at the end. That's all I'm going to say about that. So that was kind of fun. Oh my, you know how my dad is, how he gets, how he freaks out. So that was pretty cool. So I've been watching that. TV wise,
did that hold up?
Much. I know I like the second Thor better than you did. You kind of liked it, but we're not crazy about it.
No, I didn't. Oh, I didn't really like the first Thor. I did like Thor 2, I think.
Oh, you like Thor 2?
Yeah.
I like both. And Thor 2 was just as fun watching it now as it was in the theaters. So it did, hold up well. And Loki's the best.
Tom Hiddleston.
I was watching. Yeah, he's amazing. I was watching, and I thought to myself, man, they needed Loki in Avengers. They should have just got rid of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver and just put Loki in there, and it would have been much better.
Oh, that's interesting because some people say Loki wasn't the greatest villain and wasn't the most interesting villain to have to rehash him in Avengers.
They don't know what they're talking about. Loki is the best villain in the Marvel universe.
That might be true.
I'm not comparing him to obviously the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker in DC Comics, but in Marvel's universe, but that's not saying much.
Gotcha.
There's no real competition,
That's true. Marvel. I mean, he probably is just the most charismatic villain. I mean, you're right in the sense that we haven't had that. I mean, I guess.
No, but if you break it down, Ultron's cool and all, but
But see, I really liked Ultron.
I know because you like James Spader too. But one movie, one and done. They could have done that better. Mickey Rourke in Iron Man 2. What a waste.
Yeah, it's true.
The Mandarin we kind of liked in Iron Man 3, even with the Ben. But a lot of people didn't like that debacle.
No, we're definitely in the minority in that one.
So when you're looking at the whole picture, it's hard. I think you have to give the edge to Tom Hiddleston and Loki.
They're just going to tell you because that's because they're keeping the villain for the end.
Yeah, that may be well true. Thanos looks like a beast.
Yeah, and he's played by a great actor. Josh Brolin was able to probably really do well. But there was something about Tom Hiddleston that just connected with the audience in a very different way. It's like a charismatic heel in wrestling. People you shouldn't like him, but people like him.
Absolutely, and his story about father sibling rivalries. That's all relatable in some manner. Granted, we're not going to be kings one day like Thor and Loki might be, but we could definitely relate to that, and I think that was a cool aspect.
Yeah,
even the second one, that was Shakespearean drama, Greek tragedy unfolding. It's entertaining, man.
It's true, and Loki's not. Loki's a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy. Obviously, he kind of plays both sides, but he's also a person who's just kind of looking out for himself at the time being. So I
know, and that makes it more interesting because, in the second one, he does help Thor out.
Yeah, but not to really help Thor out.
No, so that's a cool dynamic. Yeah. He's not one-sided. He's not one dynamic. He's multifaceted villain that, like you said, looks out for himself, and that's why he's the best villain in Marvel.
Do you own most of the Marvel movies?
No, I have both. I have both Thors. I got to represent the first Iron Man, and that's it. And Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
that's it. But
I was thinking about that the other day. You know what? Now that you're even talking about it, I don't think I own many Marvel movies. And to be honest, I don't think I revisited most. I don't think I've revisited 90% of them since watching them in theaters. I think the only one that I could say I honestly have revisited and watched multiple times since was Iron Man 3. I think I've caught the Avengers a few times on DirecTV maybe. But beyond that, there's no other one that I've watched, like constantly over and over again. And I'm not trying to say I'm not trying to make it like a bad thing, but I've just never really noticed that. And that's why I wanted to ask you if Thor holds up, because I've never watched one, went home and watched it again in the time where I could honestly remember things. So I just thought that'd be interesting. I do own a lot of DC stuff, though.
Yes, we do. But, again, like, I would buy Iron Man 3, absolutely. I would watch that again tomorrow.
You know what? I want to, but here's the sad thing. I don't own Iron Man 3. And the reason being is because for some reason that movie never goes down in price. Every time I see it, it's like $30. And I'm like, man, they have a brand new movie out over here for $20. And it's 30, what the hell?
Yeah, that is pricey.
It's a great movie. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I like it. Robert Downey's great in that movie. James, the guy we usually do our video reviews with, and a great friend of ours who visited this podcast many times, thinks I'm crazy. He does not like that movie at all, but honestly, I think it's my favorite of most of the Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely the best Iron Man film.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of the top Marvel. Like, I think everyone's got so disappointed and wrapped up in the Mandarin.
Yeah, they forgot how good the rest of the movie was. I mean, even he wasn't even that bad.
He wasn't. It was like a different. Like, I could see like the diehard comic book fan being generally upset with that, just because it's the history. And granted, I'm not a comic book reader, so I have who's the Mandarin to me? No one. Ben Kingsley's the Mandarin. So I could definitely see that aspect. It's like someone ruining the Joker, for you. But man, it's still fun.
Yeah.
The whole like dynamic of Tony Stark going dark and pressing his.
But now that there's a lot of talk about them making the real Mandarin appear in somewhat of a sense, and he's pissed because Ben Kingsley impersonated him. So,
and I like that too. I think that's pretty funny.
I think that's interesting. To me, I think it would just honestly, it's better off left alone, in my opinion, when it comes to that. Just because we've already kind of explored that, but who knows? I don't know, but that's interesting. Marvel again keeps us busy. What have I been watching? A lot of TV. Unfortunately, I've been watching a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is a great show.
Unfortunately, that's great.
That's great
How dare
stuff. I've been watching a lot of cooking shows. Netflix has this new series called Chef's Table, and they just kind of premiered that. And basically, it's 6 episodes that follow individual chefs. And I've gotten through the first episode, which is pretty interesting, and about this particular chef and a bunch of cheese. I won't say much more. You need to go check it out yourself. But it's a very entertaining show. I like it. And I'm a big person who likes to watch cooking stuff. And I'm a big fan of cooking. So it's an entertaining show. They've also recently put on Bill Nye the Science Guy. And for some reason, that to me sounds so appealing that I've watched even a few episodes of that.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's very weird.
Not necessarily weird, but I mean, they put it on there for a reason. So,
yeah, like I granted, like he was cool and hip and fun, I guess, in middle school. Man. But I don't think I would sit down like one afternoon and say, you know what, I'm dying to see some Bill Nye. Let me put on this episode when he talks about gravity.
It reminds me of the day when I'm younger. I actually watched an episode that they did gravity on. The first episode though was about the Earth's crust.
Yeah, see, I can't even remember that.
See, that's good because I probably, it was a great way to learn and prepare myself for San Andreas, which we're gonna get into in a little bit. I mean, it's true, man. It's very, very interesting, fun stuff.
Years from now, when they make another earthquake movie, I want the director to say at a press conference, "You know what really inspired me to make this film? Bill Nye the Science Guy."
Hey, man, if he inspired anyone scientifically. I'm sure he is like a hero to me, especially now, because now he's like turning into like an icon.
He is a pop icon, to a degree.
People love him. People want to hear what he has to say about things. I mean, he did that whole segment on Deflategate, which was hilarious. Yep. He's like, no. And now he's like best friends with Neil Tyson deGrasse. And from Cosmos, and they're always together, and people want them to run for president, and they're like adorable friends, just like Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. So, I mean, people love seeing them together and all that stuff. So, it's fun, and he's becoming more and more popular. So, maybe it was just all the hype, that made me want to revisit it. Mm-hmm. All right, I guess that's going to wrap it up for our weekly recap. Let's hop into some movie news. Some really interesting stuff's going on. I don't know how much of it Louie is been informed about, but we will get to it. First thing I want to talk about is this trailer that dropped either earlier today or late last night. I really can't tell you, but I watched it and reviewed it. And if you want to hear my full review on it, as me and Louie are more just going to chat about it lightly, you can always go to our YouTube page, chasingcinema.com. Under the news button, you'll be able to see the videos, or youtube.com/chasingcinema. Either way, it's available to you. We update our YouTube videos, our YouTube channel 5 times a day with movie news, whatever's going on in the world of motion picture, giveaways, updates. Today's Throwback Thursday, so that's part of it when we talk about Jaws. So head on over there and you can watch all those videos. But now, when you're hearing this, it'll probably be a few days old. Anyway, American Ultra. Louie, have you seen this trailer? And if so, well, just tell me if you've seen the trailer or not.
Yes, I have.
That's because I made you watch it before we started this podcast. But
that is true.
But that is kind of the major trailer that is being talked about right now. American Ultra tells the stars Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart, who both starred in a film called Adventureland, a movie that not many people saw, but I remember watching when I was in Hollywood Video. Didn't do very well. I thought it was okay. I did like their chemistry, and now they're going to be paired again in this film, American Ultra, what tells the story of pretty much a convenience store clerk, it seems like, who likes to get high, who is a pothead and a stoner, and he wants to propose to his girlfriend. And his girlfriend played by Kristen Stewart by the name of Phoebe. And in the process of him just trying to be, going through his life, proposing to his girlfriend, he finds out that he was once a killing machine for a government agency. Now, I don't know if he was CIA, I don't know exactly. It doesn't really make all that clear. But what we do know is when threatened and when reminded, Jesse Eisenberg turns into a killing machine, only to then make cracks about munchies and the weed in his car. Now, I made Louie watch this because he is a huge fan of a similar story without the weed and mushrooms, and that is called...
How dare you?
Oh, come on.
Compare.
Tell me this is not the Bourne Identity with like a twist.
Totally not. Because number one, even though Jason Bourne did not know his true identity, Matthew Webb, he knew that something was wrong. He already knew that he was a killing machine, and he had to go to the answer, why have they turned him into a monster? This is more like a spoof, a buffoon. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I saw the trailer. Let me get to it. I was not happy. I not because of the Jason Bourne comparison. I wasn't thinking Jason Bourne when I was watching this.
Are you serious?
I was thinking, what? No, like, I honestly wasn't thinking Jason Bourne. I was thinking, wow, this looks terrible. The movie generally looks terrible. Jesse Eisenberg with that little curly long hair looks like a buffoon. Kristen Stewart looks like Kristen Stewart any day of the week, sober, non-sober. It's a mess. It's a mess already. And I hope I don't have to see this film. Like, I want to pass already. Like, no.
This will definitely be your film because I can't compare and contrast with Bourne movies.
No, and it looks like a painful ripoff of the Pineapple Express. Man, if you want a good stoner film, leave it to Seth Rogen and company.
It definitely does kind of have a rehashing of Pineapple Express, but to me, this whole trailer said Bourne Identity. He's a killing machine. He doesn't know really how it happens. He's the government agency that created him seems to want to stop him, and I think it's yeah. But I agree with you for the most part. I don't think it's
it looks terrible.
Good. I don't know if I go to the extreme of terrible. I kind of like the idea that it's a total different twist on a movie that is loved by many people. And, it wasn't the worst trailer I've ever seen, that's for sure. But it's not a movie that I'm going to be counting down the days to. There's a lot of great things coming out. And this movie is supposed to hit theaters, I believe, at the end of August of this year. So, and if this is the first I'm hearing about it, it's quite shocking.
It'd be lucky you get a main release. This would be VOD.
It might be, but you're definitely going to cover this movie because you got to really compare and contrast. You're telling me, but it's going for this, very, like Louie said, a parody or a spoof of Jason Bourne without really being a spoof. Where Jesse Eisenberg can take two guys out with the middle spoon, but then we have the comedy of him talking about drugs and being high and what they dubbed him the stoned. Get it? Cold killer.
Yeah, when they said it in the trailer, I wasn't laughing, and now I'm not laughing again.
See, and just to clarify, I'm not laughing necessarily at the trailer. I'm laughing at Louie's reaction to the trailer. But anyway, That's the trailer and main talks today. Anything else you have to say about this?
No, I mentioned it before we started the podcast that I don't know what is it or what made me turn, but I'm beginning to not like Jesse Eisenberg. And I don't know why. I have no clue. Like, I have nothing against him personally, but now he just seems like he annoys me.
Chop at your boy.
No, not at all. Like, I loved him in Social Network, and then I'm thinking, what else did I like him? Okay, Zombieland, maybe, but like, I think it was like Now You See Me, the movie that I actually like hated with every fiber of my being, and he was in it, and he annoyed me in that one, and now I just think of that film with him, and it just follows him, and it's not good. I liked him To Rome with Love, Woody Allen, so I don't know, but this trailer reminded me, like, go away, please. Why are you Lex Luthor? No.
That's the thing, though, is will our opinions change when he is Lex Luthor?
I don't know, hopefully, but then again.
But they have been pushing his Lex Luthor role to very much like a Social Network character, so I'm interested too. I mean, I'll agree with Louie. There's not many like movies where I'm like, oh, Jesse Eisenberg, he's this. I mean, his kind of claim to fame will always be probably the Social Network, and that'll be the performance that he's always going to have to kind of eventually top. But I'm not sure he will, and especially in this movie. But you never know. He obviously wanted to do something light and fun before he went into the superhero world, because I'm sure he's going to be in it. He's going to be in it for the next 10 years, just like everyone else. So he wanted to have some fun before he did that. Which is interesting, because I'm even, like, I'm sure they were, I'm not sure how that goes, but I'm thinking, like, you're working, well, it's true. I was going to say Disney and Marvel, but I totally forgot that he's working with DC and Warner Brothers, because they're like, you're going to be in this superhero stuff, kids are going to watch you can't really be in this stoner movie, but I guess they don't care.
Well, no one's going to see this movie anyway, so they don't care.
Moving on to some movie news. All right, let's get into more of Louie's realm of business. Louie probably won't be having too much to say about this because there's really nothing much to say. But we have been introduced to some pretty interesting characters that I am very excited to meet in the upcoming Star Wars film, The Force Awakens. We've met Oscar Isaac's character, we've met Lupita Nyong'o's character, and now today we've actually seen the image of Andy Serkis, who gave an incredibly chilling voiceover narration in the teaser, not the trailer, but the teaser that came out a while back. And we revealed an image of him today in his motion capture setup, and we're also given his name, which will be Supreme Leader Snoke. So I don't know about Louie. That to me says villain all over the place. When you are a leader and you're a supreme leader and your name's Snoke, it just kind of has an evil ring to it. It's like Professor Snape. There's nothing. I know that sounds bad. Even though, don't freak out on me, Harry Potter fans. I know Professor Snape is a good guy, and
spoiler alert,
he did all this and that. But I'm just saying, the man comes off pretty sketchy in those movies, and he is pretty sketchy. He does some sketchy stuff sometimes,
big time, and he looks creepy,
right?
As all can be. Oh,
so we have Supreme Leader Snoke, who obviously might be a replacement for the Emperor, not necessarily like a physical replacement, but more of like a very similar character. Then we have the introduction of Lupita Nyong'o and Oscar Isaac, which I think are the most exciting factors going into this movie, which is now only a little bit more than 6 months away. It's felt like years and years to get here, but now we are in the month counting range. So the image is pretty awesome, but obviously he's in motion capture, which Andy Serkis is obviously very comfortable and very phenomenal in. We've seen him play King Kong, we've seen him play Gollum, we've seen him play Caesar from the Planet of the Apes series. So obviously this man knows how to really transform body language and facial expressions to emotion. So I'm looking forward to seeing him probably more than anything else. Louie, what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. When I heard Andy Serkis was going to be attached and be in some capacity the new Star Wars film, I got really excited, because you think about his body of work and you can't be but amazed by what he has contributed to those films. Like, when I think of Lord of the Rings, you think of Gollum first and foremost. Yeah. When you think of Planet of the Apes, it's Caesar. His work is unmatched. So I'm really excited, and like with the name, like you said, Supreme Leader, the key word is supreme.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely excited. I like the actors, the new actors that are involved in this film. So, I can't wait. I wish it was here.
Vote for Palpatine. What's the worst that could happen? That's a lyric from a rap song from Big B Battalion. We all know who Palpatine is, so I'm not going to get into that. Emperor Palpatine,
Yeah.
The evil emperor.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I'm not sure to what extent his character is going to be apparent in this film. But with a title like that, I hope it's not just a cameo, because he's a man that I definitely want in a movie to be a villain, because he does have that capacity as an actor. But that's it with Star Wars. Star Wars, unfortunately, is getting buried under this mountain of movie news that comes out of comic book movies day in, day out, where Star Wars has been pretty subtle about its information. But when something like major happens for Star Wars, the world stops paying attention to everything else. So I'm really interested in seeing the number battles in the up and coming just shift in attention. After December, when Star Wars is released, will there be a separation where more people are wanting to see more Star Wars and more space operas, or will people want to continue the superhero route? I think there's going to be an interesting divide when this movie comes out. I think people are going to go see both, of course. And when I say both, I obviously mean the huge release of Batman vs. Superman, which comes out a few months after Star Wars. But it's going to get interesting, because the next year is definitely going to be a major year. This year is big, but this next year is going to be huge. We have Batman vs. Superman. We have another Star Wars film called Rogue One, which isn't part of the episodes, but it's an anthology. So we'll have a Star Wars movie. We have Suicide Squad, which has been much part of the news. And the next piece that I want to be talking about... Sorry, I had a cough and I didn't want to do it on the mic. Have you been hearing about the on-set videos and photos that leaked from Suicide Squad, Louie?
Oh, I definitely have.
Have you seen the videos?
No.
Okay. Well, for those who have not, and as well have not seen the image of Andy Serkis that we spoke about, you can always see all that information on ChasingCinema.com under the news section. Go to ChasingCinema.com, you hit that news button, and you'll be able to find all this information. But the video first on, what's today? Thursday, so Wednesday. So on Tuesday, we had a video and some images leak of a continuing scene. Now, see, last week sometime, there was a video that kind of surfaced of Joker, Jared Leto's Joker, on the street in front of this extremely interesting vehicle, what they're calling the Joker Mobile, with a gun to his head by the hands of Margot Robbie, who plays Harley Quinn. Now, she wasn't in her Harley Quinn getup, so people assumed maybe this was a flashback scene when she was Harley Quinzel. Some people thought maybe this is the end of the movie when she's gotten her life back together. We're not sure. We're trying to put pieces together. Then, on Tuesday, we get more images of this and a video of him driving away with Margot Robbie in the car. And then, boom! That's the Batman. Anyway, we see the Batmobile itself make a right turn and start chasing down the Joker, which is awesome, which is exciting. It says, and I'm thinking, what a great way to kind of end this movie. Maybe it's not a flashback scene. Hopefully it's not. I think that's just a great way to bring this movie to a close, having Joker and Harley Quinn reunite and all of a sudden seeing the Bat in the background, which can lead us up to the Joker-Batman feud, because obviously Suicide Squad comes out in August, which is obviously after Batman vs. Superman, so his already going to be established. But we don't actually get to see Batman. Yesterday, more video is released of Joker in the Joker Mobile on his car flying around, and then all of a sudden we could just kind of see a shadowy, dark figure on the back of his car, smashing on it, holding on for dear life as Joker is zipping-zapping through the city. In Toronto, they're actually filming right now, and that confirms that we are going to have Batman in this movie. So people have went crazy. I mean, it was something that we all expected. There's been talk about Jared Leto being in Batman or Superman a little bit. Now we have this going on. So obviously this is just leading up to the Justice League film, which is coming out in 2017. I'm super excited for this. Obviously, Batman in anything is super exciting. Louis, what are your thoughts about all this going on?
Well, there's always been rumors of Ben Affleck appearing in a Suicide Squad in some capacity. I think last month or so, or 2 months ago, there was footage, pictures capturing him arriving on set in Toronto. So people were freaking out then. Some people say, he was just visiting. Other people, he's there for a spot. So I'm not, truly surprised that he's involved in some capacity. It is pretty cool. I like your idea of ending the film like this because that's a great lead-in to the Batman Joker feud that could be seen in a solo Batman film, part of Batman vs Superman, whatever they please. But at this point, with all these Superman, well, I guess Superman, Batman, all these superhero rumors constantly coming out day after day, week after week, I'm getting tired. Like, I really don't care anymore. And it's crazy. Like, I love rumors. I love catching up movie news. But at this point, it's like, okay, let them film. Who cares what happened? It's coming out next year. Like, get over it. It's only Batman.
Oh, I was up to it until that point. There's no such thing.
It's only Ben Affleck.
It's even worse. No, I agree with you, man. Especially since I started doing movie news updates each day on our YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/chasingcinema. I've never talked so much superhero stuff in my life. I talked about Suicide Squad probably 7 days in a row. Because there's constantly releasing information about it or images. But to me, my mind wasn't like, wow, this is really surprising. It's Batman. My mind is like, okay, all right, if this is the ending, you really kind of screwed up. Because now I know the ending of the movie. Mm-hmm. Why and when will Warner Brothers step in and say, okay, guys, stop filming? Because, I mean, in this video where Batman is on the not the hood, but more like the trunk back end of this Joker mobile, we have these huge crowds just filming on their phones, their iPads. And I'm just like, when is Warner Brothers going to step in and say, okay, guys, no more, and keep something a secret? Now, granted, I know this is huge publicity. It's keeping everyone's mind on Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman. But to be honest, you're just showing me way too much, and I'm not going to have anything to hold on for or be excited for in the theater, because if that is the ending, which some people are predicting, and I know Batman's going to be there, you've ruined a really great surprise for me in the theater, and I think that's what kind of bugs me more than anything.
Yeah, and it must be tough for Warner Brothers too, to an extent, because even though it does create great publicity, like you said, and I guess they don't necessarily mind all too much, but at the same time, even if they let the crowds film, because I think that's might be difficult to manage if you have a group of people watching you film. There's going to always be a group of people taking out their phones in this day and age. But once they post that online, you got to be all over that and, remove it. I know YouTube does a great job of
YouTube is always really good at stuff like that.
So it's just going to be interesting. And that Sorry, and I was going to say that makes me appreciate J.J. Abrams a lot, because he's always held a lot close to his chest. And even though, a couple years ago with the whole Star Trek about is he Khan, isn't he Khan, that kind of got out. But he's been quite efficient at keeping the major surprises close to him. And he's doing that with Star Wars. Like, we don't know, we hear rumors, this and that, but we don't know, we don't have definite proof. And so it makes me appreciate J.J. Abrams and what he's doing.
No, I agree. And that's what's weird, is that the first videos that were leaked from the set of Suicide Squad was Joker and Harley Quinn fighting. Well, at least with those two. I mean, there was some video beforehand, but that was immediately taken down. I actually didn't even get to see those videos because they leaked late one night, and in the morning when I went to watch it, it wasn't there. So they were, and now it just seems like they're like, all right, guys, go ahead, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What else do we have in movie news today? Louie, do you remember 5 years ago?
Okay.
You and I, actually 4 years and 11 months to be exact.
Oh my goodness.
Ooh, and this is strange for Louie because I have a terrible memory.
Yeah, that was like perfect to the date.
Well, you'll know why. Walked into a casino.
Some point.
Yep. Went up the escalator and bought tickets to go see the 35th anniversary release of an incredible movie directed by a man who would later become a filmmaking legend by the name of Steven Spielberg, and watched a film called Jaws.
I sure do.
Well, like I said, that was nearly 5 years ago, and what's 35 plus 5?
Big 4-0.
Ladies and gentlemen, June 21st is the 40th birthday for Jaws, the very, very incredibly successful blockbuster and iconic piece of motion picture. Jaws turns 40 and will be released in about 500 theaters across the country on June 21st with a encore on June 24th, I believe. And obviously this is a part of a event put together by TCM, Fathom Events, and Universal to bring the big Jaws back on screen. Now, I was talking about that today, also available on the YouTube channel, on how much of a great experience it was to not have been around for the original release of Jaws, obviously in 1975, but still being able to watch it in its best form in the theater. That was also the same time the Blu-ray came out, the first ever Blu-ray edition of Jaws, which came in, some of them came in with with a book Blu-ray set, which was kind of nice and obviously looked beautiful. But now we are, again, 5 years in advance. We're going to be re-releasing these movies again, and now I'm hoping that we get a really, really great Blu-ray box set, because if any movie deserves a really great, solid box set, it's Jaws, and I'm hoping that's going to be coming, because as much as I love this little booklet Blu-ray, I want more. Now, even though we saw the film in theaters 5 years ago, do you have interest in watching it again in theaters?
Of course, without hesitation, and much like you alluded to, it was such a great experience. Being a fan of just cinema, but especially that film, Steven Spielberg, it was a real pleasure to watch that on the big screen, to see all the glory that is Jaws and see it unfold, surround sound, big screen. It was, truly a spectacle, and one that, we either take for granted nowadays because everything's on the go, everything's mobile, as you would. So it was great. And yeah, of course, it's been 5 years. I would love to see that again in the big screen. And if you haven't seen it or have seen it in the big screen, I'm sure everyone would agree. It's definitely a movie to watch on the big screen.
I think that's my biggest thing, is if you've not seen it on the big screen, this is something you definitely need to attend, because you will truly experience one of Steven Spielberg's, one of his best, arguably the best, on the big screen where it should have been played. So I'm really excited for that. I honestly couldn't even keep track. I can't believe our screening was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That just did not feel that long ago. So that's pretty crazy in it of itself.
It definitely is.
So that's the news with Jaws. What the hell else have I been talking about as of late? Louie, there's a... do you want to talk about superhero stuff? We're going to go back to superhero stuff. Have you heard the rumors about Matthew McConaughey?
No.
Okay. Well, there is this new trend where... Not new, but newer. Okay. Where Marvel and DC have been courting really, really talented, and I'm not saying everyone in these movies aren't talented enough, but they're seemingly going towards
A-list. Not even
A-list, because I classify a lot of those celebrities A-list, but Academy Award worthy stars and filmmakers. It was recently announced that Ava DuVernay was being hired by Marvel to make the Black Panther movie. Well, at least a diverse project. They didn't really say, but
that or Captain Marvel, for her. Yeah. And I think that's great. I think she should jump all over that.
There was another case, but I can't think of who it was.
And then, of course, Benedict Cumberbatch and Doctor Strange.
And then,
sorry to cut you off, but they just released the news that Tilda Swinton is going to be joining Benedict Cumberbatch.
Playing opposite of him and playing the Ancient One, which is awesome. But and I'm not saying some of these actors aren't incredible. Robert Downey Jr. is amazing, and all these actors are great. And so, Ben Kingsley, these are people who have won awards. But now we're looking at the recent award winners. It was like Marvel and DC grabbed the list of the Academy Award winners from last year and said, "Okay, who can we get?" And on that list was Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey has come out and said both Marvel and DC has courted him to make a movie. He's even read scripts with both Marvel and DC, and he said in a statement about 2 weeks ago that he's just not found a project that he feels is good, is not necessarily good enough, but not perfect for him. And if it does come across, he'd definitely be interested. About a couple days later, we get this huge rumor that Matthew McConaughey is being eyed for none other than the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, the character made famous by Spider-Man. I don't believe this is true, and I think this is just a really big rumor right now. I honestly don't even know if it's been confirmed or denied. I would have known if it was confirmed, but not even denied yet. But it really raises that interesting question of like, is this where these superhero movies are going? Will we see superhero movies have actors get nominated for Academy Awards? Like, will a superhero movie be nominated for Best Picture? Is that a possibility? Is that something that we can see happen?
Well, if you go back, Heath Ledger with the Joker started this trend, and the reason why the Academy moved up to 10 picture nominees for Best Picture was to include films like these films we're talking about.
Even though they never did that.
They never did.
And there's actually talk about them not doing that anymore. Do you hear that? They're dropping it back down to 5, they were saying, maybe?
Which is like, I'm so over that. It's like, do 10. If you're going to do 10, do 10.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, we've vented our frustrations with that before. But anyway, that's interesting to me. Because Matthew McConaughey, that to me, is if you get that, and what we have Jared Leto and Batman, our
Joker
Suicide
now.
Squad, obviously, who won an Academy Award. You have someone like Matthew McConaughey and Spider-Man. I don't care who Spider-Man is, even though they haven't even confirmed who the new Spider-Man is.
Even though,
most
the kid from Hugo is like the
Asa Butterfield is like the main focus, and everyone's saying he's from Ender's Game. He's pretty much been. Some sites have said it's been confirmed. It's not been confirmed. So don't take it with the greatest. All things can change. But Matthew McConaughey, even though I think this is also just a big rumor and not going to be true at all, I think it's very interesting. And I just feel like this whole trend of going after these really, really Academy Award worthy filmmakers, actors and directors and producers is quite an interesting jump for superhero movies. And I'm interested to see that maybe in a year or two we'll have superhero movies all over the Academy's nomination list.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's unfortunate to an extent that it comes down to this, but it all comes down to money. The reason why they could go after these caliber actors is because finally superhero movies are making a lot of money. There's a lot of money invested into these films, so now we could bring in those type of actors. And then even going back to Batman, Jack Nicholson, I guess you could say, was the first oh my god heavyweight Academy Award winner, but yeah, I love Matthew McConaughey, obviously for his recent work. When I close my eyes, I could picture him as the Green Goblin perfectly. I think he would add like a nice weirdness to it.
All right,
Spidey. Yeah, I'm picturing him like in Wolf of Wall Street in the beginning, as he was the mentor and he was kind of out there.
Yeah,
like if he takes that type of vibe and energy, and then brings it to Spider-Man, I think that would be terrific. Although, just because the recent flops in Spider-Man, maybe they don't want to waste Matthew McConaughey on this reboot of Spider-Man.
That's true. Or they're depending on him to carry the franchise.
Of course, but if they're doing that, then there's a problem right away.
Absolutely. And obviously there has always been a problem with Spidey, so it is really interesting to kind of see where everything goes from here.
It would have been cool for this remake if they would have had him in this one with Andrew Garfield this time around.
Instead of the joke of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 cast that we had. Even though we had great actors, we just had terrible
Paul Giamatti, Jamie Foxx.
Scripts, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it would have been kind of cool to see that play out, But it's going to be interesting. I think he should. If the opportunity is right, why not? Good for him. He's at the point in his career right now where he could do anything.
That's the thing, though, is when you sign on to a superhero movie, your chances are you're not just signing on to one, and you're taking up a lot of time in your career. And I'm just thinking, do I want him as the Green Goblin in 5 movies, or do I want him exploring and doing great movies each year?
Well, yeah, then again, he can manage. Maybe he said, you know what, I do want to sign, but I'm not giving you 5 movies. You want me that bad? Here, I give you 2 or 3 max. That's it.
Well, it's still 2 or 3. It's a lot.
That is, but he could
especially
still
at these kind of caliber pictures.
Well, I just think of, although this is a little out there, but Jennifer Lawrence with Hunger Games and X-Men. That's 2 franchises that she's been heavily involved in, and she's still finding time.
Sure.
So if she could, I think people can.
She's a lot younger.
She is a lot younger and very...
She's a kid.
She's it right now.
Yeah.
But then again, Matthew McConaughey, man, that's like you said, all right. He could find a way.
All right, web slinger.
Yeah, it'd be great. I would love that vibe from him.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude us for movie news. There's so much more on ChasingCinema.com under the news section or on our YouTube page, youtube.com/ChasingCinema. You can go check all that out and more there. But now me and Louie are going to go into our review of the disaster film San Andreas, starring the one, the great one, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. If you're some man, what The Rock is cooking, Johnson, as well as a few other people, but that's not important.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. We have Paul.
To an extent, you're right.
To an extent. I mean, no. Because honestly, not to give too much away, everyone in that movie is actually pretty good. So, but before we get into that, we're going to be talking about San Andreas, a film that follows a genre that is quite old and quite popular, and that is the disaster movie. The movie that tells a disaster, a tragic event that basically causes a bunch of chaos and becomes an adventure action movie of survival. Dwayne Johnson is also joined by Carla Gugino,
Alexander Daddario.
Yes, and Paul Giamatti. A few other people, but I'll let Louie get into all those names and stuff like that. So, if the San Andreas fault.
Well, before we get into San Andreas,
all right.
When you think of disaster films, like what are your go-to films to watch when you want to show someone like a good disaster film? Like, what do you think of?
Ooh, it's a good question.
Because I was thinking back, I was like writing this review after watching the film. I was thinking, you know what, disaster films there have been a lot of good films that have been disaster films, and I think we take for granted this genre because in recent years there haven't been a lot of good disaster films. You know, I know you kind of liked Into the Storm, but that was a flop.
Yeah, that was terrible. Into the Storm was just cool because I just was amazed by the tornado.
Yeah,
and the fact that
but that was a flop. You know, 2012 came out. That was an even bigger flop than
I didn't like 2012.
Day After Tomorrow, I know did mildly well, but I did not like that film. So, like in the 2000 teens, 2000 to the 2010s, there haven't been that many good, if any, good disaster films. So I was thinking, man, we haven't had any good. And I was looking about like the history of disaster films, how it dated back to the beginning of the 1900s, big boom in the 70s, and again in the 90s. Being kids of the 90s, we grew up like in the prime real estate of disaster films. We have Independence Day, can be classified as a disaster film.
Twister.
Titanic, Twister, Deep Impact, Armageddon. Like, those are, like, granted, maybe a lot of those have not been critically acclaimed, but for kids like us, those are solid, entertaining movies that you could watch on multiple occasions. And one that I mentioned briefly that I was a big fan of, and I don't know the score on Rotten Tomatoes, I never looked, but I loved Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones.
I remember Volcano.
I absolutely thought that was, like, the knees bees back in the late 90s. I was like, wow, Tommy Lee Jones is the man, and the whole volcanoes and
we need to pour it into the water.
Yeah, like it was just cool. And then of course the iconic scene with the firefighters carrying this person to safety, walking in lava and saying his Hail Marys. Oh my God, powerful. So I love that. I think of those movies. I love Volcano, but it's been a while since we had a solid, good disaster film.
It's true. When you mention that, my go-tos have always kind of been a lot of the older films. A Night to Remember, The Towering Inferno, but I do think of Twister. I guess
Twister's good too.
Titanic, Armageddon, obviously. So there are quite a few that my head goes to, and they're not always necessarily the best written or the best performed, but I mean, I definitely feel like this San Andreas is definitely more in like the 70s vein rather than actually like Titanic or anything like that, because Titanic obviously is a disaster movie that is incredibly well received,
of course.
which is not usually in alignment with the genre.
No, granted, most people don't think of Titanic as a disaster film, but its initial story was
absolutely, because A Night to Remember is a disaster story, and that was with Titanic.
Absolutely,
But Twister, Armageddon, Independence Day, I guess you could say. I mean, there's a lot.
I was just thinking, man, we haven't had like a solid disaster film in a while. But that could change.
Into the Storm.
No, get out of here with this.
No, honestly, I think it just scared me because tornadoes are real.
Twister did that.
But not like 4 tornadoes combined in one.
Sharknado did that.
That's true. Touche.
Sharknado, man.
Touche.
But anyways, I think finally we might have a disaster film that is worthy of some praise. Because compared to recent ones, we finally have one that's entertaining, that still has the great graphics, great special effects. The destruction in San Andreas is, top-notch CGI quality. And we finally are getting back to what really drives disaster films, and that's characters that are facing tragedy, facing human cowardice, but are so likable, and you could root for them, you could relate to them, that it makes disaster films worthwhile. And San Andreas, I think, does this perfectly because Dwayne Johnson, playing Ray, a Los Angeles fire rescue pilot, is in the middle of a massive, massive earthquake that hits the San Andreas Fault. San Francisco and most of California is in destruction. But before he can help the civilians of California and do his job, he must save his ex-wife, played by Carla Gugino, and their daughter, Blake, played by Alexandra Daddario. And granted, you could find a lot of flaws in this film. Granted, it's predictable. It could be a bit 20 minutes too long. It's a little cheesy and corny in some regard, but at the core of the story, at the heart of the story, it's still highly entertaining. There's a lot of great action sequences, set pieces, and this is why you're paying to see this movie in the first place, is to see destruction, to see chaos, to see what a 9.6 magnitude earthquake could do to California. And granted, Brad Payton does a great job of showing the power of this earthquake. So in that regard, we do get our money's worth. But more importantly, we have Dwayne Johnson pretty much carrying this film on his back, showing that he is, and Jake will agree with me later, most likely, that he has become the action star of our generation. I think Dwayne Johnson has made leaps and bounds with each movie, each role. He's progressing more and more, and it's kind of great to see, because Jake and I are, like we've mentioned before, are big wrestling fans, and to see him make this jump into this, and everyone knows of his persona of The Rock, but now he's becoming like Dwayne Johnson. And in this film, he still had the the brassness, the masculinity of The Rock, but he made a lot of strides as an actor in this film. I thought, there was a couple of scenes where it was just emotional, quiet, nice, solid performance from Dwayne Johnson. I'm proud of him for that. But his interaction with Carla is fantastic. There's a lot of heart in the story. I think it's fun. A lot of critics have been bashing this film, calling it stupid, unrealistic, loud, overdone, offensive to the mind, but that's its job. It's supposed to be loud, a little silly, a little absurd, but fun, and it delivers on that respect. There's a lot of throws, a lot of tension in this film, and I enjoyed it.
And I'm gonna have to agree with you. First of all, I do think The Rock has officially become the action star of our generation. He is the one that people will go to pretty much in any action genre and believe he is capable of doing what he does. He's awesome. It is pretty amazing to actually watch an actor develop, though. I've always kind of, you see actors in older movies and you see them nowadays and you say, oh, wow. But it's really interesting to watch every movie and kind of grow with that performance. Because, you look at the Scorpion King or Mummy 3, I think it was. Wow.
Yeah.
And Rock was
big jump.
Rock was obviously not the greatest performer, but people still liked him because he was fun, it was action, even in Rundown and so on and so forth. Though I don't think this is his best performance, I think his best performance hails in Michael Bay's film, surprisingly, in Pain.
Yeah.
He's absolutely phenomenal in that movie. This is exactly what this movie should have been. It was fun, sure. Is it the most logical movie? No. Does it need to be? No. Does it have a few good messages? Absolutely. The movie talks about, first of all, has, though a bit, maybe a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? maybe a bit more of a cheap pop, but about our country's ability to rebuild and stand strong and to always be the great America that it is. And I'm not saying that we're not. I'm just saying, sometimes that kind of pop, the way it's presented might be a little bit, like, oh, hey, and we're America, we'll rebuild. But we also have the incredible, themes of how we understand and how we sit and we hear these things about our world and our globe and the environment around us, and how we really don't take much action to it, and we don't really think about it because it's not happening today. But when it will happen, and when it does happen, we're going to be really upset. We need to pay more attention to it. We need to start figuring out ways to learn more as much as we can about earthquakes and natural disasters in general, to prepare and protect ourselves. But beyond that, the movie really kind of just talks about the importance of family and moving on and things like that. And, great themes. Carla Gugino, I always want to say Kugina, but it's Gugina. Carla Gugina is really good in this movie. The movie has heart. The movie tells, a very sufficient story for this movie. It's about saving the daughter, and like Louie said, but The Rock and her chemistry is great. There's emotion in this movie. There's amazing visual effects. I think there are some times when the effects are a bit cheesy, obviously because their focus is on the bigger picture. So there might be little parts you go, "Why does that look so cheesy?" But then you see the amazing effects that it does do. And sure, there are those moments you go, "Yeah, right." But it doesn't. That's not important. It's not something that'll take you out of the movie. It's an interesting ride. It's an adventure. You have Paul Giamatti, who are delivering tons of memorable quotes in his great performance. Just fun. This is exactly what you expect from a disaster movie. And like I said, there's not many disaster movies that we named off that had the acclaim like Titanic. And I'm not saying this movie should be praised like Titanic, but it does what it's supposed to do. Some movies are just supposed to follow suit of genre. And if they're fun and they're entertaining and you enjoy yourself and you care about these characters to a degree, then it does its job. Could this movie have been a lot more serious? Yeah, probably, but it might not have worked as well, and this movie does have some parts where you go, yeah, right, but at the same time, I didn't find myself going, this ain't possible, this ain't possible. Granted, I don't even know what you'd call these people, but, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher to know how these things happen, or if this is technically proper or not, but I know when an earthquake happens, usually a tsunami hits, and if it's that big, I believe you could crack the earth, I'm all about it. So I had fun, I enjoyed myself. Again, I think this movie really works because of The Rock leading this movie. He's a hero you can get by. The movie has a great theme about family and helping strangers and being someone that wants to help individuals. I enjoyed it, and there's nothing much more to say. People who were just complaining about it obviously were just grumpy when they were watching it, or just didn't allow the movie to just kind of be what it wanted to be. Now, at the same time, I understand that sometimes movies don't translate that well, and sometimes they are cheesy or don't hit emotional connection. But I was invested in these characters. I liked The Rock. I liked Carla Gugino's character, and I liked a lot of the characters that we were following. So I wanted to see them succeed, and I enjoyed the effects.
I think you were looking for the word seismologist.
Yeah, sure.
I ain't no scientist.
Hey, they're scientists.
No, yeah, you're totally right. It does not reinvent the disaster film genre, but it does a lot right, and it creates a lot of fun. What I was surprised about this is how much it is about the movie is about family, and that was a nice message. You can't go wrong with that. Just like what you're talking about, Poltergeist. No matter what happens, if you stick together in family, there's a good chance you're going to be all right. And I can appreciate that message.
Good message.
And then, yeah, I also want to point out that it's kind of nice to see that the female characters in the film were not damsels in distress. Granted, sure. The Rock does go and quote unquote tries to save them, but throughout the movie, they Carla and Alexandra were holding their own. They were carrying their weight equally, and that was so refreshing.
If not other characters' weight.
Yeah, especially like Alexandra, she was helping the two British, Ben and Ollie in the film, and they worked, I thought, really well together. I thought they had great chemistry. They provided a nice comic relief between the three. But I thought that was another great aspect of San Andreas is, these female characters, they're strong. They could take care of themselves sometimes too.
Good point.
So that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, overall, this movie is enjoyable. I think if you're a fan of The Rock, you'll have fun, you'll enjoy yourself. And, I mean, like I said, this movie isn't something that might go down in history as one of the greatest disaster movies of all time, but it's effective, it worked, and I enjoyed myself in the 2 hours I was in that theater.
Yeah,
and I
you
think
could do a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely. There has been a lot worse this year. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this week. Louie, do you have anything else to say?
No, I definitely check this out. I hope it does well at the box office. Actually,
I do well. I believe it will probably do. I mean, I enjoyed this one better than Tomorrowland. I'll tell you that much. And Tomorrowland did a very, very low number of $38 million. I think its opening weekend. So I hope this movie is probably going to do, if not double that.
Yeah, it's projecting at $40 million this weekend.
Well, we will see. Go check out Louie's review. You can get a full in-depth review at chasingcinema.com/San Andreas, or just chasingcinema.com. You can watch all the video reviews and actual reviews that we have written like old-fashioned critics. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking your time to listen to this podcast. You can make sure to follow us on YouTube, as I've been boasting that all day long. YouTube.com/ChasingCinema. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, all the usual stuff. Go to chasingcinema.com, register, subscribe on iTunes. Thank you so much for being a part of this and listening to our podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jacob Tiranno. I'm joined by my little faithful co-host / best friend,
Louie Coruzzolo.
And please continue chasing cinema.